Not all elves may agree, but in my opinion, you did a noble thing by outlawing arranged marriages. Well done, Commander.
I'd like to decapitate that Catherine witch and use her head for a cannonball. How dare she mingle with my affairs? You don't give daughters a choice. Of course, she won't marry that dear old Duke now. Oh, I could have mingled in the highest circles. Owned a castle in the Gordian Glades. Damn the witch. Damn her.
Commander, we the lizards think that even though you fight to attain peace, strife is inevitable as long as monarchs occupy the throne. Sooner or later, they become dictatorial and go to war on a whim. Our end goal is to make Rivlon a republic. But first, we want to see if the majority of all the civilized races truly wants this. Which is why I'm asking for your permission to hold a referendum. Do you want a government that is despotic or democratic in nature? That is the question we shall ask.
Imps are notoriously fickle, Commander. We change our minds each time the wind changes direction. No, best to have one leader to decide what's what. You're not doing too bad a job, so why hold a referendum about resignation, eh?
Commander, if you're going to go about asking the common folk for their opinion on matters of state, we'll end up with clowns in the courtroom, candy dispensers instead of taxmen, and the total collapse of a workable government before you can say free gilded carriages for everyone is actually not a very good idea. Referendum? Rubbish.
Even though we elves do think people are basically equal to one another, we nevertheless have a deep reverence for the age-old noble bloodlines from which the greatest of our kin descend without fail. And look at nature. Bees have a queen, do they not? No republic there. No, I don't think this referendum should be held.
All this talk about a republic is criminal, Commander. It would upset the gods' divine order. Deny the lizard. Deny her firmly.
Your immediate refusal illustrates quite clearly that you are both afraid of what the majority's answer to our question might be, and that you are quite determined to be a totalitarian ruler once the throne is yours. In that case, the peace you may well win is doomed to be short-lived. You have written the future, Commander, and it consists of but one word: war.
Glad you're sticking with it, Commander. I know I wouldn't hold no rotten referenda if I were Emperor. bloody lizard would have lost her head for merely suggesting it.
Right you are, Commander. Long live the Emperor. We all said it on our first day aboard the Raven, and I, for one, am not loath to repeat it.
Very good, Commander. Let the bees have their queen, the wolves their leader of the pack. We elves, dwarves, lizards, imps, undead, and humans will settle for a dragon on the throne.
Good of you, Commander. People are so easily persuaded, so easily confused. You might well have opted for the vile, godless option that is democracy. 7 forbid.
Sometimes I wonder, my little tummy tickler, why?
Bravo, Commander. Your new law regarding the requirement of girls' and women's consent to marry has caused a wave of enthusiasm among the populace. The romantic ruler is your latest sobriquet. Ironic, wouldn't you say? Ironic, yes. For of course you yourself haven't given up on your politically picked wife and went forth in pursuit of love. Such is the way of emperors. They preach, but hardly practice.
Victory sure tastes.
Commander, I wouldn't dream of marrying off my daughters at the age of 12. But to abandon political marriages altogether? That will undermine a centuries-old way of achieving increased social stature. One you yourself made use of, I might add.
Dear me, Commander. But I do believe one of your generals is smitten with an elf girl of the highest nobility. That means it's either Henry, who's intolerable, or Edmund, who's insufferable. I can only hope she'll soon come to her senses.
So, I see old Edmund is head over heels in love with a saucy bit of elven skirt. Never would have thought he'd get his little tail stirring over one of her kind.
May my mind forgive my heart, Commander, for it has poisoned it with honeyed venom, with that sweetest of all toxins, love. A part of me is nauseated for even uttering so saccharine a sentence, but I cannot help myself, as I have been enchanted by the super-earthly elegance of an elven belle. Her name, Elizabetha. Oh, dulcet set of syllables, the most beautiful damsel of woman born. Blessed be I, for she loves me too. There is but one obstacle in our course toward ultimate happiness, the most classic of lovers' impediments. Her father, Lord Larrodshire. May the plague beset his person. The lout detests me almost as much as I detest him. Already he has gone too far by calling me a swamper, the ultimate insult to us lizards. But this elf lord will be a hindrance no longer, for I intend to challenge him to a duel and be done with him. Under normal circumstances, I'd dismiss your advice as a showing of weakness. But reason insists you're right. I'll abide by his scurrilous manners for Elizabetha's sake, even if it takes all my force of will not to slice him open and eat his liver raw.
I don't think the god...
I'd have a word with Edmund if I were you, Commander. I've heard him muttering about a duel, and those are never a good idea. If he kills someone of import, the Council will cry havoc.
Excellent, Commander. Simply excellent. I realize I may seem like a cynical old sorcerer when I receive the news of one of your siblings' deaths with such relish. But if it hastens our progress to peace, may one fall neath your blade every day.
Your empire is growing with each passing day, Commander. But commerce is lagging behind. We should invest in new and broader trade routes so that our merchants can catch up with our armies.
Falstaff is right. Ever tried to cross a swamp with a cannon wagon? Took 50 imps to pull Big Bertha out of the mud.
The state of many thoroughfares is lamentable indeed, Proper roads flanked by guard posts and inns will increase the security and comfort of travelers and, yes, have a positive effect on our economy.
Trade routes such as they spring from dwarven fantasy will cut through forests, dissect rivers, and destroy habitats, Commander. I'll have none of it.
Our new lands are in need of preachers, Commander, and preachers need paths to get there. Let us therefore build new roads so as to spread the word of the gods.
Wonderful! I'll see to it construction works start before the sun has set. And the grandest road of all we'll call Via Draconis, in your honor.
Praise be, for these roads will be a tribute to the Seven. I will order my fellow undead to build a chapel at every 7th milestone.
To scar the Green Mother's skin with yet more streaks of cold stone is unconscionable, Commander. Every bird and beast will bedamn your name.
Perfect. But let's have lizards man the guard posts and dwarves run the inns. Having it the other way around would see us drunken sentinels and all too stern barkeeps.
Good. I can picture it now. 100 miles of dynamite and boom! Instant Holloway. Engineering at its best.
You'll be glad to know, Commander, that I followed your advice. Despite the tactless treatment I received from Lord Larradshire, I was the very picture of gallantry at a dinner thrown in my honor by darling Elizabetha, during which I amazed them all by my command of elf etiquette in the ancient tongue. As the evening drew to a close and the ladies retired to the music room, the Lord poured me a brandy and apologized for his ill-chosen words uttered during previous occasions. I'm now quite at home when I visit the estate, enwrapped in a friendly warmth, weirdly welcomed by my cold-blooded self. Thus, I am the one most amazed, for never would I have thought myself capable of enjoying the company of others, let alone non-lizards. Love conquers all, if you'll forgive the platitude.
I went to have a word with Elizabetha, wanting to warn her about Edmund, and indeed all men. But from what I hear, he's been quite the gentleman. Always have I regarded that word to be a contradiction in terms, but Edmund is trying hard to prove me wrong.
You triumphed yet.
You find me in a reflective mood, Commander. The bottom of a wine glass can serve as a gypsy's crystal, you see. Gaze upon it long enough, and times long past come parading afore one's eyes. As you can imagine, I was an exceptionally gifted child that outranked his schoolmates to such a degree I started to shun them, for their imbecility insulted me. The academic world, too, quickly discovered and quickly discarded, had precious little to offer. Clueless they all were, professors and students alike, like flies bumping up against glass. No, it was in the army that I found my true calling, for the enemy I defeat on the battlefield is defeated forever. Those I outwit in combat die. Such is the triumph of intellect, and with each new victory my detest for all that is non-lizard grows. They call it bigotry. I call it logic. And yet things have come to pass aboard the Raven that shed new light on my views. A light that reveals they may have been somewhat distorted. I do believe I have mellowed to a degree, having seen sides of all these other creatures that actually show merit in their own peculiar ways. More often than not, it was your forcing my hand in directions contrary to my instincts that lay at the basis of this epiphany. So I suppose a word of thanks is in order. To be honest, I don't know if I'll ever truly regard an elf or a dwarf as my equal. Yet no longer will I maintain their worth to be less than that of an owl's pellet. which perhaps is a first step in the right direction. But enough of this introspection, Commander. Let us fill our wine glasses anew.
Yes, Commander?
What would you inquire of me? You know as well as I do the end is in sight. Just a few...
Ridiculous the trivialities General Catherine gets all hot and bothered about. So one or two of our own soldiers overstepped the line somewhat after taking yet another town or city. They fought to the death. Are they not allowed some R&R? A cuddle and a fondle with some local belle?
Commander, I'll not pretend I'm naive enough not to know that where our armies go, regrettable misbehavior sometimes follows. But I had no idea as to the scale of the transgressions committed. Luckily, General Catherine caught a whiff of these unsavory practices and decided to fight them tooth and nail.
Commander, I have conducted a couple of surprise inspections of late to see firsthand how our ground troops are conducting themselves in newly conquered territories. The result is exactly what I had expected. Atrocious. Swarms of fire-spouting locusts wouldn't do as much damage as the average cohort. They pillage left and right, and what is worse, rape every woman and girl they can get their ruttish claws on. Most officers turn a blind eye, and those that don't get transferred behind the lines. This is nothing short of organized assault. But I took matters into my own hands, Commander. The first offenders have been court-martialed and hung for their offense. Touched one last time by angel lust, then limp and lethargic forever. So I shall, Commander. The harvest from the hanging tree will be plentiful this year.
You might find it strange hearing this from me, Commander, but I quite agree with Catherine. As far as women are concerned, the pleasure may lie in the chase and the kill, so to speak. But I don't take the hunting metaphor literally, whereas several soldiers do. To force oneself on a girl is detestable, and the men who do so should lose the weapon that's causing her misfortune.
Sup, Commander?
Commander?
Once more, I find myself siding with Catherine, Commander. The army could do with a dollop of the feminine touch, which is not weaker, but most certainly wiser than its male counterpart.
Commander, I do hope you'll not contemplate the madcap designs of General Catherine. Women in the army. Who ever heard of such folly? Men lead, men fight. Women follow. Food provide. Every undead knows that rhyme by heart, for such is the will of the Seven.
Commander, I would like to raise a concern about public decency. Now, if certain men feel the apparent need to cavort with one of their own sex, I suppose that's their business, not mine. It becomes my business, however, when they engage in affection publicly. There I am, lunching in the park with my family, when my children have to witness two of their sort making out like teens in heat. Disgusting displays like that should be forbidden. And indeed, that is exactly what I am asking you to do.
Dwarves and their yammering. If you feel an itch, you have to scratch. And we imps don't care what that itch is or who does the scratching.
Sir Silvervein is making an ass out of himself, Commander. Instead of shielding his children from so-called aberrants, he had better teach them a lesson or two about tolerance and liberty. As it stands, it would seem you'll have to teach him those lessons by denying his outrageous request.
What an old prude Falstaff is. If a boy and a girl can sit on a park bench and kiss the afternoon away, why not two boys or two girls? Is their love worth less or less beautiful? No, of course not. And to make the distinction is ridiculous.
Sir Falstaff is absolutely correct, Commander. Those deviants he describes insult the Seven with their perverted practices and should not only be outlawed but ostracized as well.
Perhaps you enjoy the sight of two men performing intricate feats of tongue wrestling, Commander. But me, it cost me my bloody lunch. Soon the parks will be full of them, and my family will have to dine indoors. What about our rights? What about decorum?
The lesson was hammered home, Commander, if not well received. Let Falstaff continue to gripe if he must, though. What is important is that his appeal was denied. For is not the pursuit of happiness one of the fundamental ambitions of life? Who are we to stand in its way?
Well spoken, Commander. Boy, that Falstaff really is something else. Two men can't smooch in public, but a dragon can marry an elf, a lizard, or whatever species takes his fancy. Talk about your double standards.
Love does not discriminate, Commander. I'm very glad you don't either.
He who allows travesty to thrive prospers by perversion and slights the sacred Seven. Align with sin, Commander, and with sinners you will spend eternity, forced to undergo their unnatural ways. If that doesn't keep you up at night, I don't know what will.
Pestilence take me, Commander, if the vices of men aren't harder to stamp out than all the weeds in the wilderness. Where my inquisitors go, they wither. Where they leave, bloom anew in all their obscene glory. I merely try to protect women from the abject horrors that are rape and pillage, yet I find myself fighting a battle so uphill as to be vertical. To pinpoint the fundamental problem is easy. The army is run by men, for men. Now, one can train a dog to behave, but men, lacking even canine cunning, one cannot. The solution to the problem is therefore equally easy. Replace them with women. I'm not even going to be unreasonable, Commander. I could have advocated mass sterilization, for instance. No. I merely demand that you sack half of the male officers and replace them with women. They'll run the army better no matter how, and they'll see to it that not quite dogs, aka soldiers, either behave or hang. Very good, Commander. And how refreshing to meet one whose bark isn't bigger than his bite. Actions speak louder than words, as they say.
As a matter of principle, I may not quite agree with the idea of quotas, Commander, but I'm impressed by the reforms Catherine has instituted under your guidance. Already the ill reputation of our soldiers is dwindling, which may well favor us domestically as well as in lands that have yet to be annexed by the dragon.
What in the name of the Seven possessed you, Commander? I just witnessed a military advance whereby a woman was shouting orders in that shrill, thin voice of hers. And the men, they obeyed. This will be our ruin, our undoing. I just want to pack it in now. The war is lost.
The quota of women in our armies is largely having the effect I desired it to have, Commander. Our soldiers don't exactly behave like angels, but many of their offenses are now committed in the mind only. Finally, we may be welcomed as liberators where we venture, not dread conquerors bent on annihilation. So thank you for supporting this change of mind, Commander. Should you one day wake up and find strange magic made you a woman, I'd say there's hope for the Empire yet.
Half of our officers are women now. This is like one of those dreams you don't want to wake from. But I'll be an exhausted man from now on, Commander, for I'll never want to sleep no more.
Come.
Behold how powerful the dragon had become. Many of his rivals had fallen, and victory seemed inevitable. But then Corvus the demon, cruel and cunning as he was, decided to intervene, for he did not want the war to end. He infested all the Empire's enemies, using terrible blood magic. Though he remained bound to the Raven, he was now present in all of the dragon's foes. Enthralled, they became stronger and more vicious than ever. The final battle between dragon and demon had begun. Commander, a word, quickly. Devilry has befallen us that may yet spell our doom just when the end was in sight. It is Corvus. He has escaped from my bonds. Too tranquil was I in the delusion that I had him shackled for good, but no! He has flown, or rather multiplied, in infinite demonic shards that hold a firm grip over every single one of our enemies, and empowers them with hellish might. Each foe we now face will be much more powerful than he was before, and it will take our forces their utmost to vanquish them. You, I forewarn, Commander. But let the rest not know of this demon influence, or else all faith in victory would plummet like a stricken bird. You, and you alone, can now accomplish what we set out to do. One dragon will have to face an endless number of demon-driven fiends, and desolate them all. I know you can, my friend. Show them why you, none other, are the Dragon Commander.
Sometime.
A word, Commander, if you please. I have made an assessment of my time aboard the Raven, and you should hear it. You know my background. You know I used to be a queen in my own right, and that under my rule, women held sway. In a male-dominated world, I have tried to champion their rights, and on the whole, I have found in you an unexpected ally. My disposition may have sometimes betrayed my true appreciation, so I would like to thank you here and now for meeting my demands with dignity and conviction. Even if a man, I know you will make for a great emperor, and it shall be my honor to fight by your side until the day comes victory shall finally be ours.
Bloody good.
I thought doubly.
I may have derided the imps before, Commander, but I must admit their war...
Commander. Every citizen in the realm pays taxes. Every industry does the same. But which is the one institution that escapes the taxman? Why, the church, of course. Hardly fair, is it? So why not introduce a temple tax? Let every temple, church and cathedral pay, say, a monthly fee as a token of goodwill toward the Empire. After all, does not the church benefit too from a strong and wealthy state?
Temple tax, what a marvellous idea. Take from the seven and give it to science. Falstaff's got it.
The Church of the Seven is one of the wealthiest organizations in Rivlon, Commander, and it's true they don't impart as much as tuppence to the treasury. So Falstaff is right, hardly fair.
Introduce this new tax, Commander, and the church will just demand more of the public in donations. So in the end, who will really pay? The man in the street. And they give more than their share already.
When will that filthy dwarf finally pass a single day without resorting to sacrilege, base and vile? The Church of the Seven is holy, above such secular concerns as taxes. If you want yet more gold for the royal coffers, you had better look elsewhere, Commander.
You haven't a mercantile mind, Commander. I was dangling millions in front of you, and all you had to do was extend your hand. Bloody priests would have gotten nothing but their just deserts.
My thanks, Commander. After all, the Church can but rely on the pittance of the pious for her income. I shudder to think how she might have suffered should the taxman have come a-knocking.
Good. Besides, temples provide a public service, don't they? And one can hardly tax the need for spirituality.
Commander, you could have asked but a single % of the church's income and still have walked away with the means to raise 5 new armies. Or do you really think they spend so much on incense, not personal luxuries?
Come on, Commander. Those cathedrals could stand to do with a few less statues of silver and chalices beset with diamonds. Aren't those gods fellows supposed to be all humble and pious? Because they're bloody not at all.
Cursed be that hothead of a Henry, Commander. I'd rather swallow needles than endeavor a constructive discussion with him ever again. You know what he's like on the field. Always must he fly solo. Always must he go charging in like a bull in heat. Ridiculous. If he's thinking at all about what he's doing, it's with his brain that dangles, not deducts. The man's a menace, a danger to himself and others.
How delightfully entertaining to see Catherine and Henry exploding in rage over a strategic disagreement. Like children they are, vainly trying to prove to one another they have the better toy. Of course, none of the two realizes they could argue till the dwarves grow tired of gold and never reach the tiniest epiphany. To wage war requires a distinct brand of genius. Where they are found wanting, I am found abounding.
I feel positively...
By all the gods, real or imaginary, devils take my manhood if that Catherine creature isn't a bigger bitch than a mountain-sized mastiff. So what if I wage war by my own rules and care little for her so-called team tactics? That's no reason to question my ability. She's lucky she has tits to prove she's not a man, or I'd have beaten her more savagely than a dwarf is anvil. Besides, what's the use of standing shoulder to shoulder when you know the fella next to you will run once the swords start ringing and the blood begins to flow? Aye, that's what happened the day I lost my arm. I stood my ground, alone. And the rest of the Emperor's generals, they outran their wives and their litter trying to escape. So much for loyalty. So much for duty. I find it a lot easier to tell the benefit of the doubt it can go shag itself. But if you insist, I'll give the others a chance. Though I'm sure they'll prove to be a bigger disappointment than looking for a brothel in an elf town.
Oh, my head. Feels like there's an imp wedding celebration going on in there and they've just lighted the fireworks. I drank shots and played poker with Henry, Edmund, and Scarlet. Not a dime left in my pockets. But it was rather jolly, in a vulgar sort of way. Men will have their simple pleasures, you know. Games of chance, drinking games, etc. All made for a welcome change from Henry's moody ways, though. He was rather cordial, if you can believe it. Thought I'd see Maxos shave his beard first.
Commander, we really need to act on the misuse of necromantic magic. Only last week, some dunderhead slipped up during an incantation, and now 5 generations of skeletal elves are demanding their homes and hearths back from their own living descendants. Enough is enough!
7 strike that rotten dwarf. Necromancy is an art, and its practice should be encouraged, not muzzled.
Sir Falstaff and I are in agreement, Commander. Quite unnerving to have an undead woman knocking on the door claiming she's your great-great-great-grandmother, and could she please have her old room back? Or so I'm told.
Mishaps like this happen all too frequently, and more often than not, crazed necromancers are causing them. They are the least responsible of all wizards, hunted even by the elves, and we should ensure they are put under strict observation by other, more responsible sorcerers.
What Falstaff calls misuse, we imps call creative experimentation. Science is basically a series of accidents that sometimes leads to a nice little novelty. So let them incant away, those necromancers. No harm in trying.
Excellent. When a fellow kicks the bucket, you hold the wake, bury him deep, and honor his memory. Mucking about with his corpse is not on that list.
Glad you agree, Commander. Death is part of nature's cycle, and therefore to be undead is to be unnatural. Try and convince my great-great-great-grandmother of that logic, though.
Good. The least we can do is to demand the written consent of bereaved relatives before processes of resurrection can be initiated on deceased persons. A matter of common courtesy, surely.
Bah! You're only hampering important research, Commander. We'd kill to bring the great Costard Thundervat back to life, but no necromancer has been able to puzzle him back together as yet. They need the practice.
May the seven strike you too, Commander. Death is not an end, but a beginning. And thanks to you, more will be kept in the grave than could walk anew. You murder them in death.
I don't think the gods of war care who...
Next time Henry wants to play cards, I'll tell him I'd rather tongue-kiss a rattler. Such an unrefined game, really. The pastime of booze hounds and imbeciles. Quite unfit for a man of my refinement. To change the subject entirely, could I receive my wages a bit earlier this month? I've had some unexpected expenses.
Commander, so I took your counsel to heart and decided I should give my fellow generals a chance to prove they are worthy of my esteemed friendship and perhaps even trust. What better test I can put them to, I ask myself, than the holy game of poker? See who's shrewd, behold who bluffs, descry who dares and when. So that's what I did. Rounded them up and played from dusk till dawn. You were right. They're not a bad bunch once you get to know them. Obviously, I left their purses emptier than Yorick's skull, which does do wonders for my temper. Can't rightly say if that endeared me to them, but I'm sure as hell I'd like to see more of them once this month's wages come in.
Commander, we have anxiously awaited your return, for our spies brought dire news. Some obscure nobleman by the name of Drury has ordered top assassins to kidnap and kill Henry's daughter Anne. Her death would crush him, and that's exactly how that prick tries to get the attention of our enemies. By robbing you of one of your generals, he seeks the same post in their armies. You know there'd be no stopping Henry. He sped off home the instant he heard the news, so now Catherine and I would like your permission to go after him. If he has to face those backstabbing bastards, we want to face them with him. Yes, Commander, we'll hack them to pieces and be back in time for happy hour.
How much more base and depraved can a soul get when it seeks the death of a child to further its interests? Henry and I may not always see eye to eye, but if I can save his daughter, I will do what I can. And Scarlet feels the same.
Henry has a spot of daughter trouble, has he? These teenage girls, they're all the same. Scarlet and Catherine actually want to abandon ship and rush to her rescue. Can you imagine? At least I have the sense of duty to remain here in the epicenter of your power, where generals are truly needed. Well, there's that, and the fact that I just can't be bothered. Dear, oh dear. It seems my esteemed colleagues made a mess of things. But why blame them, really? Takes those blockheads of counselors, of course, not to know any confrontation with hardened assassins is bound to leave a trail of, a variety of things. Blood, ash, and general destruction come to mind. Perhaps I should have gone with them after all. Sounds like they had a jolly old time.
Your generals are out of control, Commander. Now, I appreciate they stood together to rescue Henry's daughter, but when the end result has a tally of 2 incinerated buildings, a ruined hall of industry, and a few dozen dead or wounded, it seems to me they were a tad too enthusiastic. They may be used to battlefields alone these days, but we do not tolerate such mayhem in our cities. Someone needs to pay.
One has but to look at our gold reserves, Commander, to see that they are dwindling fast. I therefore propose we cease to aid developing countries financially. Them greedy buggers can take care of themselves for a change.
I don't appreciate Falstaff's wording of his proposal, Commander, but I do agree with him. Philanthropy is the prerogative of peace. In times of war, it is war we need to invest in.
Why invest in poor people when you can invest in munitions factories? Falstaff's got the right idea.
To give away what one has aplenty to those bereft of riches is a duty, Commander, as stipulated by the Seven. What Sir Falstaff wants directly opposes that rule, and hence must not be accepted.
Charity is one of the cornerstones of civilization, Commander. Don't let the dwarves hack it out of society's foundation.
You're wasting the Empire's resources, you know. All those donations end up in a couple of fat officials' pockets. The populace doesn't even get a penny to divide between 100 of them. I thought everybody knew that.
And what will you withhold next? Funds for orphanages? Donations to veterans? Contributions to... You know, I'm going to stop talking because I know Falstaff is already memorizing these examples for future use.
For to give to unfortunates is to become oneself more fortunate. Thus it is written, and thus shall it be.
The noble decision is not necessarily the right one, Commander. Sometimes the Empire must think of itself rather than its allies.
Oh, humbug. You're missing out on a shell a shilling, Commander. What a waste.
Good to see you, Commander. I've been meaning to thank you for the role you've played in the rescue of my dear Anne. 'Twould have been another story entirely had Catherine and Scarlet not come to my aid. Wonders of women. You should have seen us. And we reached before those bloody assassins did. But they beset us in far greater numbers than we could have foreseen. They used imp-throwing bombs, lizard arrows tipped with poison, dwarf axes that could cut through steel, but we held them off time and again. We three duelists, shoulder to shoulder. Of course, there was a touch of collateral damage, I suppose. One of those imp devices rolled right into an undead kindergarten. But really, those skeletal scamps are already dead to begin with, right? I thought it was rather funny. A shower of bones, it was. Came clattering down like dry hail. Is that a reason to be a killjoy and scream bloody murder? 'Cause that's what those God-be-damned counselors of yours are doing. They demand restitution and the likes. I've half a mind to demonstrate what functionalities come with this arm of mine, and where they can put them. I suppose not. So what happens next? I have to pay a fine or something? Do community service for the undead? Air out some crypts and polish their coffins? Bah! By every demon arse in hell, the things we do for our children, Commander.
We accomplished our mission, Commander, but I shudder to think at what cost. No wonder the councillors are in an uproar.
We did it, Commander. Anne has been rescued. Hardest fight I ever fought, but it was worth it. I'm sorry to say, though, those damned assassins spared not the citizens that stood in their way. Many died, but not by our blades.
7 be merciful when your generals descend unto our cities, Commander. When they paint the town red, they transcend the mere figure of speech. We undead have children to mourn because of their escapades, and we demand hefty reimbursement.
Those high and mighty councillors sure did a number on Henry, as if he's the one that caused so much trouble. Have they quite forgotten about Lord Drury's merry band of assassins? He's been asking me for a loan, you know, being robbed of his gold. Asked for quite a lot, actually. But I guess I can't rightly refuse him. A begging man is more agonizing to look upon than a begging dog.
General Henry got his comeuppance, Commander. I can only hope he'll reflect on his sentence with proper repentance and humility. Yet, knowing Henry, pigs will fly first.
It's over, Commander. I stood before a tribunal, was described as a maniac, a vandal, an arsonist, and even a murderer. But I bore it all with quiet dignity, my jaws clenched tighter than Prosper's arse. They took my land, my titles, what gold I had stored, but I stood in silence, not giving them the satisfaction of showing my rage. Quite a change from the hothead Henry you know and love, isn't it, Commander? 'Twas down to Catherine and Scarlet, you know. Never would I have let those bastards of councillors unleash their barrage of injustice over me had I not rested easily in the knowledge that thereby I was shielding the friends who came to my aid without as much as a thought for their own safety. My daughter came to no harm, and neither did my comrades in arms. All is well. Now, to toast them all with wine and beer, and again, and again. It'll have to be your treat, though, Commander. I'm penniless now, remember?
Justice has been done under the all-seeing eyes of the mighty Seven. He who has cast down the bones of our brethren has himself been cast down into the dust. I didn't quite know what to make of Henry's attitude, though. I found myself paying for his whole trip back to ship. He kept going on and on about how sorry he was. Another drink, Yorick, to alleviate my guilt. Another drink, Yorick, in memory of those poor children. What could I do but pick up the tab?
Sometimes our
It doesn't do to give...
Come to have a chat, Commander. Just as well, for I've been meaning to have a word with the dragon myself. Remember when I told you about losing my arm and eye? How I lost it standing guard for your father, an emperor unworthy of his throne? Well, telling you got me thinking, as well as drinking. And here's the conclusions I've come to. I was different then, you see. And not just because I was more man and less machine. No. The day they hacked me up good, there was much more that I lost. In that arm lay stored loyalty and duty. In that eye, trust and friendship. Out the door, just like that. But lately, They've been clawing at it, wanting to come back in. We've got a fine bunch of generals here, Commander. And there's Edmund too, but let's not open that particular can of worms. No, it's the girls, Scarlet and Catherine. Guess I've never come closer to women without wanting to get in their pants. I respect them as officers, I really do. And I think that should history repeat itself, they would stand by me as we make our last stand, not run like the mongrels that still stain my memories. If there's trust to be had, I think they've earned mine, Commander, as of you. The sins of your father need not be yours. You have my sword and my friendship too. There! Now you know. So enough of this sentimental elf talk and let's drink! To us! To the Raven! To victory!
Another province conquered. Another...
We won a victory for the...
I fought doubly hard to score this victory. As far as I can tell, our enemies are quaking firmly in their...
Commander, if we elves think something is of supreme importance, it is the happiness of all people. For those with rejoicing hearts do no evil and look upon the world with kindness. We also believe they will fight harder for their country if pressed. For a new overlord may not hold their welfare in high regard. Clearly, this will benefit you in times of need. So, how can we increase the happiness of a huge part of your citizenry? By allowing them to form unions, so they can stand up for themselves better.
Unions? What blasphemy! People shouldn't emancipate themselves in factories. They should prostrate themselves before the gods in the seven glorious temples. Let the people organize and they'll suddenly make all sorts of silly demands. Advocate not happiness, Commander, but humility.
Typical elven wishy-washy nonsense. Unions indeed. Nothing but organized trouble, led by work-shy ne'er-do-wells. Don't you fall for Oberon's tricks, Commander.
It's not that the idea of unions offends me, Commander, but in times of war, we just cannot afford the side effect unions tend to bring about. Strikes, protests, you know the sort of thing. No, I advise against Oberon's proposal.
frightfully bad idea, Commander. You allow unions, and before you know it, concerns about working conditions are raised. They'll shut down every arms factory we own. Won't make us imps any happier, that.
This would have been the first step towards the betterment of your fellow man, Commander. Needless to say, I am sorely disappointed, as every other elf in the realm will be.
Very wise of you, Commander. Humble people do not question. They accept. And the Seven love them for it.
Good show, Commander. Our labourers have more than enough rights as it is. The right to work and hold their tongues, for instance. The right to be glad with the wages they get.
Very good, Commander. Unions tend to be run by small-minded people, and in these times of chaos, we need people who can see the bigger picture.
Dodged a bullet there, Commander. Union folk are like annoying brats, you know. Never content with what they have, and when you give them a good slap, 10 of their number come running howling like banshees.
Welcome back, Commander. One last time, let me welcome you back aboard the Raven. The Empire has been restored. Peace, briefly dethroned, follows in your wake. What 3 mighty men once set out to do, you have accomplished single-handedly. In the name of an entire world, in the name of delivered millions, I thank you. Long may our friendship last, and long may last your reign. He has been finally defeated, Commander. So many of his aspects you have destroyed that he is now but a shell, bereft of all powers. When I dismantle the Raven, him I shall banish to the abyss he came from, and with him, the last remaining traces of that vile traitor, the Architect. Your wife and all her wisdom I have sent out to locate the best and most beauteous spot in Rivellon, where we will build your castle. Then, a capital we'll build around your castle, and an empire around that capital. An empire that will stand for 1,000 years. But for your blessed realm to remain standing so long, we must destroy every last bit of demon technology, including this majestical Raven. It is a sad thing indeed when such wonders need to be undone, but we cannot trust the nature of man, or any of the others. Soon these machines will be but figments of the imagination, be like snippets of dreams that fade from memory upon waking. We cannot have it any other way. Give the word, dear dragon, and I shall commence to shape the world anew. By all means, Commander. I'm certain they all wish to congratulate you on your victory.
Commander, the Seven have truly favored us all. Heathens wither in the throes of death as we tread by them victoriously. Glory be unto the gods. No mortal can, of course, truly mimic their magnificence, but the harder we try, the more we may find favor in their stern, just eyes. I'm afraid what favor you have found does not quite live up to the expectations I had, but I'm contented in the knowledge that times of peace may just bring the faithful new challenges which we may overcome together. For peace, as you will be aware, so frightfully easily leads to vice. Besides, the Empire is but new. So many who stray have yet to be subjugated. Whatever your merits, Commander, much more can be done. Yes, indeed. After all, so say the hallowed 7 scriptures. The world shall never be perfect until all that stirs is bone.
Praise be, Commander. Rivellon has been saved, and her great green mother with her. Quite clearly, we have but one being to truly thank for this unexpected and inimitable feat, and that is you. Nevermore, I think, has the freedom you have granted us put a greater responsibility on our shoulders in turn, on each and every one of the civilized races. We must earn back the very rights to happiness your liberation entitles us to. I will remain a politician for certain, and I will continue to defend elven viewpoints valiantly. Always will they be relevant. Always will I hope you shall value them higher than you have before. Even the best is never good enough when perfection is your end goal. I foresee a bright future, Commander. Indeed I do. Yes, I may have to contend with dwarves and undead still, but that is no price to pay at all in return for the stability of peace. Thank you. May the spirits of nature guard your soul, and may their wisdom be your constant companion.
Commander, allow me to congratulate you. Not just from the bottom of my heart, but the deepest recess of my beer-soaked liver. More affectionately and sincerely, I cannot be. We've come a long way, and we've had our ups and downs, but today is not one of regret, of looking back in anger. No! A day like this? Ha! Such a day the world has never seen. You, Commander, no, Emperor, will be a monarch to remember. a man whose memory will wear out untold ages. Rivellon is yours, one fair and square. So treat her well, for a mighty fine realm she is. But come, let's have a drink, you and I. We've earned it both. Today, no politics. Today, no war. Today, we raise our glass to Rivellon and to the dragon who secured her freedom.
This moment has been so long in the making, Commander, that now the hour strikes, it seems almost unreal. And yet here we are. The war is over. We have won against unthinkable odds. Unlike some, I know full well what this victory means. How important it is to enact what you and Maxo set out to do. It's uncommonly brave to revert time, as it were, and undo the miracles of magic that brought us victory. Only a handful would understand how uncommonly wise this is as well. Such wisdom requires a lizard's mind, I do believe, abounding with primordial profundity, or at least a lizard's vision. You do possess both to a degree, though perhaps not as much as I had hoped. Still, I do not mean to put you on the spot, dear dragon. What you have accomplished outshines the political tribulations we had. And who is to say we shan't find you more accommodating in the future? We are but on the cusp of your illustrious career. Of that I am certain. For I am convinced that more than in the empire you won, your legacy will lie in the empire you will leave behind. It is my fondest desire it will be a realm in which all lizards will reside in freedom and happiness.
Ah, Commander. Everyone seems to be in a rather merry mood today, as if our final victory took them all by surprise. Oh, these short-sighted simpletons. Bless them, eh? As though any endeavor that has my backing is not bound to prevail. To be fair, though, I suppose this is indeed a day to be merry. Many gave their utmost to safeguard the Empire. Many gave even their lives. So many proud lizards. And yes, dwarves, elves, the others too. Heed well their sacrifice, Commander, for it is you they fought for. Even more, I think, than the idea that is the realm. Still, the one thing that really matters, the one thing that will be remembered is that the dragon came, saw, and conquered. And there's an end to it. But anyway, enough banter. A good sherry is what I need. They brought in some new casks only yesterday, I do believe, so I live in good hopes I may yet have a sip of sherry worthy of its name before this ship is decommissioned, and we with it.
Bulls, bulls, we've triumphed, Commander. After long last, we can say, game over, lads, the war is won. No cry rings quite so cheerily and chillingly in the ears of an old warhorse like me. Aye, for I may be a well-seasoned stallion, but I'll be damned if I'm ready to be put out to pasture. And how about you, then? Guess you've made your old man proud. His empire shattered like a stricken sheet of glass, but you've managed to puzzle it all back together. And a good job you did, too. Dragons, eh? They'll get the job done. Guess you've got a couple of 100 years ahead of you. Me, a couple of dozen with any luck. That's okay, though. I've pretty much accomplished what I wanted and more, thanks to a couple of gentle nudges by your hand. Perhaps Scarlet, Catherine, and I can join forces now, if they be willing. Always some mischief going on in the world in need of setting right. Good, then. That's settled. Now, let us drink. You didn't think I was gonna let you gallivant off without joining me in a toast, did you? Come on. Down the hatch. To us, Commander.
Ha ha! You did it, Commander. We won! Do you realize what this means? We can go home, live lives of peace. Oh, Lord, I'm gonna be bored all day, aren't I? Come to think of it, maybe I won't. I've a new quest to start, you know. One you helped me embark upon. There's a girl out there in the wide, wild world. A girl whom I shall love, and she will love me. That's a great adventure too, isn't it? A journey more worthy than war. Yes, I'll leave in the morrow. But know, Commander, that oftentimes I'll gaze skyward with a smile on my lips, and when I do, you'll be the one I think of.
Well then, Commander. Looks like it's all over. What seemed impossible only a relatively short while ago has been made a reality. Maxos was right all along. You, the dragon, were destined to redeem the realm. But you have done more than conquer the world, you know. You have been an instrument of redemption. I was a bitter woman when my kingdom was taken from me, and all the more enraged by the injustices I and every woman had to suffer. You, however, have cured both my bitterness and my loss in the faith that any man could be a creature of honor and respect. Thereby you yourself have earned great honor and respect in turn. Cherish your victory, Commander, for it is yours more than any other. Long may your memory rouse the heart of each and every being that loves this blessed plot we call Rivellon.
There we bally well have it, don't we, my lord? Well, I can't believe it's over. Indeed, I don't. No more tinkering, no more hammering, no more engineering. Oh, what a sad, sad day. Bitter misery. Then again, the raven stopped singing to me long ago. And the things she taught me were more precious than anything that rigid old sorcerer could come up with. Time for Grumio to pack it in. Time for my poor cousin Trinculo too. We'll have to invent new wonders all over again. Yes, that'd be good fun, actually. How about I join your court, my lord? Oh, the crafty contrivances I could fashion for you and your wife. Fountains that spout wine or beer on command. Fans that wave by themselves. You can kiss those smelly orc slaves goodbye. Oh, and carriages that stay cool inside even in the summer. Oh, we'll have us a blast, my lord.
Buggering, bonking blunderbusses, Commander. You've done it. Not that I ever quite doubted a fire-breathing beast, equipped with my nephew Grumio's jetpack, but by golly, you sure gave us a show. Imps and dragons. You know, sometimes we see eye to eye, sometimes we stamp each other's toes, and when we do, mine's smart a tad more. But that's okay. We're chums, you and I, aren't we? No doubt about it. Oh, lordy, lordy, what an occasion this is. I feel like I should say something profound, but such is not the way of imps. All I can say is this. Please, please, please don't listen to that old goat of a Maxos and destroy all this technology. By every god that never was, these trinkets, these gadgets, these machines, they're so much fun. But they will be destroyed, won't they? Blimey, Commander. If that's not like a pigeon pooping right on your birthday cake the very moment you're about to take a great big bite.
It is impossible. Impossible that I have been beaten. I who was so many, reduced to one. So much blood has been spilled, been lost. Not even Magia Sanguinis could tame your soul. For one such as you, I can but stand in war. Eternities of torment would I have made you suffer. And yet, in the servant I had foreseen, I find my undoer. May Maxos end me swiftly, for such shame sears my soul. You have spoken with your companions, Commander? Very well, Commander. In this end, let us find myriad new beginnings. Now dawns an age of peace. Now breaks in golden light the Pax Draconis. And so it was that after long last, Sigurd's son, the prince they had called a bastard, became Emperor of Rivellon. Peace descended upon the battle-scarred realm, and each and every war machine was duly destroyed. No longer did demonic technology hold sway, and the world became one of harmony once more. Harmony between magic and nature. As for Maxos, grateful his friend had secured his father's legacy, he knew this would be the beginning of a new age. That of Dragon Knights.
you